Hi, my name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses with HealthyBlackWoman.com and TheBlackHomeschool.com. And this is my good friend Shaquita Graham with LovingTheBlackMan.com and Ateco.com. How are you doing today, Shaquita?
Doing great. How are you, Noma?
I have no complaints at all. The story that caught my attention today was one that is actually at theroot.com. And the title of the story is, Louis Farrakhan on Donald Trump. I like what I'm looking at. Those are his words. So before we jump in and, with our outrage, let me just tell you a little bit more about the story. Basically, this is what Minister Louis Farrakhan said. He said, Trump, quote, is the only member who has stood in front of the Jewish community and said, I don't want your money, end quote. Farrakhan said this during a weekend sermon. He said, quote, anytime a man can say to those who control the politics of America, I don't want your money, that means you can't control me, and they can't afford to give up control of the president of the United States. Now, Farrakhan made it clear that his admiration for Trump wasn't an endorsement. He says, not that I'm for Trump, but I like what I'm looking at. So what are your thoughts on this, Shaquita?
Well, first of all, I absolutely love the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I believe that he has a very clear understanding of the problems that we're facing, and that he is often working on and presenting solutions that are economic and focus on the empowerment of Black people and not being controlled by, the status quo. And I think that's what he kind of is alluding to when he's talking about Donald Trump, because the fact that there's only been, 44 or 45 presidents, and then you have somebody like Hillary Clinton running. I mean, what's the odds of having two presidents from the same family, just like the Bushes? I mean, at some point, can anybody else in the country be the president? And the fact that the money comes from private prisons and, all of these different special interest groups dictates what that president will do. Now, I absolutely am disgusted by Donald Trump, but he is indicative of what America believes and thinks about race. So, that's what I think about it.
Okay. I actually, I'm of the same opinion as the Minister, Louis Farrakhan. Of course, nobody's endorsing, well, some people are, but we're not endorsing Donald Trump. We're talking about the nature of his campaign, that it is independently run, in the sense that he doesn't have to beg anybody for money, and by not having to beg anybody for money, he can do what he says. Now, it's a double-edged sword. He can do and say what he wants. So it's a double-edged sword because he's out of control. But we can actually, to some degree, trust him in the sense that he doesn't have these underlying and ulterior motives based on who's paying for his campaign. I remember just a couple of weeks ago, another story came out about Hillary Clinton, and she had these so-called speaking engagements at several banking institutions, and somehow all of them seemed to pay her, I think it was $200,000. And if you scrutinize that enough, it may look like she actually just got the money, obviously for campaign contributions, but they were just being creative in how they accounted for it. So I don't think that, and I think I've said it before, I'm not a big commentator on politics, but I think this screams same old, and it did catch my attention when I heard that Minister Farrakhan said that he liked Donald Trump's campaign, and I thought, wait, what? Donald Trump said some horrible things about Muslims. He said horrible things about Hispanic people, immigrants. I mean, he's offended just about anybody that you can think of. So why would Minister Farrakhan even remotely say that he liked anything about Donald Trump? But we have to, at this point, use logic and critical thinking and listen clearly to what he's saying, or carefully to what he's saying. He's not saying he likes Donald Trump. He's not saying he wants Donald Trump to be president. He's just saying that the nature of Donald Trump's campaign is how all campaigns should be. And that's where you run a campaign based on what you're going to do and do what you said you're going to do rather than do what the people who gave you money want you to do.
Yeah, and I think, again, I'm not a political commentator either, but the bottom line is that it's people like me and you, mothers, wives, that are going out here to vote, and a lot of Black women think that Hillary Clinton is a friend, or there's a lot of Black Republicans who think that Donald Trump is a friend. And I think what the minister brought up was really about a blueprint of getting independent candidates out there. Like, I've heard people suggest that Black people need to get our economic base together so that we can fund our own candidates, because we can see the difference between the candidates based on where their funding comes from. And I'm in total agreement with that. And that's why, I love what Dr. Boyce is doing and so many others, Claude Anderson, admonishing us to get and helping us to get an economic base together so that we can eventually begin to fund our own candidates. Another thing that the minister has said about Mr. Trump in the past, his quote reportedly is, and I actually heard him say this, Mr. Trump is tearing away the skin of the onion of white civility, and the more he pulls the skin of that onion back, he's beginning to show something in the character of whites that follow him. And we can see that being evident with the KKK endorsing him, the violence that's taking place against Black people at his campaign. So in a way, he is being funded by certain groups that are informing the way that he operates and the things that he champions, meaning Donald Trump.
Right. So the takeaway for me here is that we may not agree with Donald Trump, but we do have to agree that, or at least we can start to think about the fact that the way he's doing politics is certainly better than the way it was done before, in the sense that he's not taking money from people who will then control him. And then also, he does reveal things that we kind of knew, but they were not out in the open. He puts it out in the open. I wish more politicians would be like Donald Trump and just tell us exactly what they think, so that when you vote for him, you know the devil that you picked, rather than where they cloak things in so much diplomacy and double talk and all this Princeton and Ivy League talk that we don't even hear exactly what they're saying. And then we only realize after people have come into office what they were saying because of the policies that they put into place and how the country looks after they've been in office. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think the takeaway for me is that you can see that people are bold enough to say when they have the money and the following that is going to support that. And we as Black people need to come up with the money, and we need to unify and a following again to support a candidate that's going to say the things that we need them to say, like white supremacy needs to be replaced, reparations need to be paid, these types of things. And I think that, that's the takeaway for me.
Yeah. So we can just leave it there. Obviously, there's going to be more unfolding as this comical campaign continues. It's March, and until November, we have 8 more months. So we'll certainly have more to talk about. And like I said, I'm not one to spend a lot of time looking at what's going on in politics or talking about it, but you can certainly agree that this particular campaign is special in the sense that it's like watching a circus. So we can't help but talk about it because ultimately who does end up in the office in the grand scheme of things does affect the future of the country. So just want to thank our viewers for watching. My name is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses, and I am with Healthy Black Woman and theblackhomeschool.com. I want to say thank you to Shaquita Graham with lovingtheblackman.com and atecco.com. Thank you, Shaquita, for joining me, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you, Noma. Thank you for watching.